So, the topic of the day is silent evil and how to make a character more towards being evil than towards being violent. Now, when you think of a person who is an antagonist, the person is usually violent or is a criminal or has motives which are beyond the legal system. But when we are talking about evil, we usually tend to take the violence out of it and just make the character as mischievous and as self-centered as possible. So what I want to talk about is how to write that character, because it's easy to just see a person in a cinematic verse, like the character of Satan is supposed to be the one who is violent and is torturing souls because and leading them to their eternal suffering, right? But when you think about it through the Greek perspective of gods, which is the role of Hades, and Hades is supposed to be the lord of the underworld, but he's not evil. He's just taking the soul and punishing the wrongdoers of the society. But he's not enjoying that. He's just the necessary evil of a society. He's not always resorting to violence. His work is to punish those who did bad. Similarly, in today's topic, I want to talk about people who are not people, characters in a specific story who are not violent. They just are evil, and the types of people who are in this umbrella. Now, the first thing I can say is the greedy evil which plays to your insecurities. So suppose there's a character who's very charming, who's very likable to people, and he's the character who's better than you, but in a character sense, better than you, and is capable of taking over your happiness at any given point of time, and you know it, which is why you're insecure. So this is like a perfect character. This is the guy who's charming. This is the guy who's ready to be there to help someone, but not really help them. His motive is to make you insecure and play through it, or figure out your insecurities, build from it, and make you do things which you wouldn't do, but you are doing because you're insecure. In case, for example, just imagine writing this scenario where there's this room and there are three characters: you, your significant other, and this guy who's charming, yet his motives are bad. So he will approach you in a way to be friendly, and his motive is to get information out of you which you're insecure about. He will pick up on cues, he will pick up on your words, he will pick up on things which you subconsciously give to him. Without knowing that, he will misuse those informations. So through this journey of about 3 to 4 pages of him being with you, he will continue to change the friendly behavior and flip it over to make it seem like you are being jealous, and simultaneously you will also start feeling jealous about this guy and his perfect life. So at the end of this thing, your significant other has no role in this entire story. She's just there to establish that you have a significant other, and the point is that you will start getting jealous towards him by the end of it. And even if your significant other contacts this guy, you will get to a point where your actions will be against your healthy relationship towards hurting this guy and proving that you are a culprit in this scenario. So this is your journey of manipulation to the point of your insecurities being turned over to making you do things which you wouldn't usually do, but this guy is speaking in your ears and he has that capability to make you turn from a normal, happy, healthy human being to being jealous and envious and greedy, and your actions will turn into things which are not your normal self. But at the end of this, you will act like a jealous and envious person, which will result in the decay of your relationship or the decay of your mental health or mental stability, right? So by the end of this character will change you into being toxic, and that will result in him eliminating another guy who was on his way, right? So this is the first type I wanted to talk about. The second type is the one who has suffered through his entire life. He has been completely different. Example, there's this biblical verse of this guy named Job. Now if I talk in a story manner, then the story goes that God had given Job all he wanted in his life, and he was God's most faithful worshipper. But Satan one day visited God, and God boasted about Job. Now Satan wanted to see if you take everything away from Job and he will still praise God, or he will turn against him. So things happened. He lost everything, and at the end of this, he would still praise God for giving him what he had given him in his previous life, and passing this lesson, he got everything back and he lived a happy life. But not everyone is that positive or optimistic or faithful. So in many cases, people who lose everything throughout their life and at that brink of ending it all, they usually turn evil. Like in that movie Joker, when with Joaquin Phoenix, he had a very depressing, for the lack of word, life. And for himself, I'm not judging his life, it was very, very dark and gritty for himself. And he saw that he was becoming a significant personality in the eyes of media after committing a crime against rich bullies. And by the end of that, he when he lost everything, he spoilers, he discovered that his mother had been the reason of his suffering all along. He finally gave in to the madness, and he started with killing his own mother. And that took a leap of crimes. I understand that this one has violence in it, but if we take out violence from this and just flip it to something else, this was just an example. A character who has been suffering for a long time, and the moment where he loses it all, it's very easy to establish a berserk like movement in his brain which leads to turning him evil as a character. So this was a situational one, which is when you take away everything from a person and then make him suffer, and that character rises towards evil. Now the next one is the conscious chaos. He is already living in chaos. He has been dealing with chaos his entire life, and after a point, or basically voluntarily or involuntarily, this guy starts to control chaos. For example, in the movie Fight Club, Edward Norton was a guy with multiple personality disorder. Established. But I wish to talk about the chaos around his life. He started with living in chaos. He was a reporter for car accidents or something, because his company was connected to insurance agencies, and Edward Norton was the guy who had to report if the car accident was legitimate or not for the person to claim the insurance. So this guy had chaos around his life 24/7 going on further with his insomnia, and he wasn't able to control his life at all. But there came a moment when he became the reason for chaos, which led to the Fight Club, which led to an army of anarchists. He started controlling chaos. He had the power to control chaos. Now, a character like this may be silent, may be very into himself, and maybe manipulative to a point where his entire life is determined to creating chaos. Most of the people, you, me, everyone, who's able to control his mental self wishes to gain mental peace. But a character like Edward Norton would, story-wise, would turn his external chaos to his internal chaos, which will fuel his controlled external chaos, and this will take the entire chapter. By chapter, I mean the entire thing, the entire novel will be revolved around how the person started with chaos and is now controlling chaos. This is a character who wishes to see destruction, who wishes to see suffering. This is the evil who's not greedy, who does not want anything, who does not aim for world domination, who may not even be a criminal, but he is the mastermind who controls the destruction. Another character would be from the evil of the society. Now, like I said, that this guy Norton had chaos around his life, but there, if we separate that from reality, if we come back to reality, in a story where it is established that the location is in a crime-ridden area, and that crime-ridden area has multiple gangs and multiple gang leaders who aim to control the location. Now, in order to control that location, you would have to sell drugs, you will have to be the leader of a gang, you will have to commit crimes. I understand I didn't want to include crimes in this, but this category of people breeds from the evil of the society. This, if I don't know if you have watched Gotham, the series, a person like Penguin from Gotham, the series, is the one who starts from the very bottom of the hierarchy of the evil of the society. He starts as a gang member, or like a right hand to a gang member, and he rises to a point of psychopathy where he becomes a gang leader. This guy would want to achieve what he has to achieve, even if it requires violence, even if it requires him sacrificing someone, even if it requires for him to do whatever he wants, well, whatever he has to. He would do that so that he reaches the top of this chain of evil. The next type would be the ruler. If we talk about Antichrist in today's perspective, an Antichrist would be someone like Hitler, who wishes to rule and to conquer the entire geography. He is the one who's so evil that he will not stop at anything until he openly becomes the god, until he is the one who turns everyone from belief to disbelief, and he is the one who would rise up out of these ashes. Now, again, story wise, it is there's this philosophy that says that the greatest trick Satan ever pulled was to make people believe that God does not exist, or make people believe that he does not exist. Now the context behind that is that people turn away from God. I'm not religious, I'm not trying to talk about religion right now, but I'm talking about a character. Now, such a character would be the guy who would speak into your ears and would make you believe that he's the one who needs to rule, but either that, or on the other hand, he would make you believe that whatever you believe is false, even if he's a good ruler. His ultimate goal is to manipulate everyone in a dimension and to rule over them. He's the person, he's the character who will take over the world. And at the end of this, there comes a character who will find peace in chaos, who will find peace in destruction. He's the character who would have a calm face, who would have a very peaceful face, who would be at bliss even in a shipwreck. This is the guy who would set the TNT off and would stand in the middle of the ship to experience the chaos. Ending this segment with violence, which I didn't want to do, but that's what I'm going to do now. So this is the guy who, unlike coming from chaos and accepting it and then building himself towards chaos, he's the guy who would find solace in chaos. He's the guy who would be his most peaceful self around destruction. He's a person who would enjoy the art of demolition, the art of death. And I don't have a very good example of this because usually morality comes in between any character, but this guy does not have a drop of morality. This is a person who, even in a small scale, even in a very lower level, he would enjoy death as a concept. So these are the type of people you can incorporate in your writing if you're writing an evil character or an antagonist who is not supposed to be the mainstream aggressive criminal or the mainstream bully of the situation. These are 6 characters, 6 types of antagonists whom you can incorporate in your writing. So thank you very much for watching this video. Like, subscribe, yada yada, and I will list them again. These are the person, the greedy one who wishes to play on your insecurities, on a character's insecurities, manipulate them and make them do things which they wouldn't do usually, and then eliminate them towards making them the better person in that scenario. The other one is the one who has had enough in his life and he's still suffering to the point of breaking into madness. This character would resolve in violence after his breaking point. Then there's conscious chaos. This is the guy who lives in chaos, grew up in chaos, and after a certain chapter in his life, he takes control of the chaos, and he's the one administering chaos, destruction. Then there's the person who comes out of the evil of the society and he raises to a pedestal where he is the evil of the society. Then there's the character whose final aim is to rule humanity, is to rule a dimension, and that character can go to any extent of either manipulation or destruction to achieve that goal. And finally, the absolutely no morality character who finds peace in death and destruction. Thank you very much for watching. That's it.